We're going to go ahead and get started, and then I'm
Go.
going to turn it over to you.
Go and go.
Yeah. Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's go on air. It is January 6th, 2010. Are we going to say 2010 or are we going to say 2010?
Let's just take a vote right now. How many say 2010? Raise your hand.
How many say,
How many say 2010?
Instapoll, 2010 wins.
How many? All right.
Okay. So welcome to, either way you say it, it's a Happy New Year, and welcome to the first Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee in this new decade. So just to let everybody know, I will be here for the, we'll take the commissioner's appointment, and then I will do the item on the Southwest Marine at the harbor, and then I need to leave at that point to make a funeral. So, and then I'll turn it over to whoever
As
wants.
long as it's not your funeral. God rest the
Oh,
soul
right.
of the person who is going to heaven.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
you.
Okay, so why don't we take item one?
Item 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Shabazz to the Los Angeles Convention and Exhibition Center Authority.
Good morning, Ms. Shabazz, and thank you for agreeing to participate as a commissioner for the Convention Center Authority. I'm also excited to see that you're a resident of Harbor City.
I am.
So you're in my district. That's great. You have a very interesting background, and you've got legal experience. You have real estate interest. I'd love to know, and I know my staff, Jenny Chavez, has met with you and found you just to be such an interesting person. What do you think? I always like to ask, particularly someone who has such a background as yours, maybe what is your assessment of the convention center's current financial status? And do you have any, I know you haven't gotten into it that much, but do you have any a perspective or some suggestions on maybe what the future looks like?
Sure. Well, I understand that for the past 4 years, the convention center has done a very good job of staying in the black and not having to be supported by the general fund. So that would be a goal, definitely, to continue forward, especially in the current budget challenges. And actually, I know that they've done a good job of that as compared to other convention centers across the country, which have not been as successful as being profitable. I would like to see the convention center take some innovative ways to continue raising funds. I know that just recently there was a push to do the demand-based pricing.
Yes, flexible pricing, yes.
Right. So things like that and other ways to deal with flexibility in addressing the budget constraints would be key.
Good.
But I think that, at this point, they're in a very good position.
Good. I think that's important. I think we're all kind of looking, again, in tough economic times on how we can sort of capture the moment. What can we do different? How can we attract more conventions, and how can we be more flexible in terms of our pricing? So it's weird. We have obviously two commissions that sort of work with the convention center, but we always like to see your board really continuing to look at ways to be more creative, other activities or developments that might be interesting to try to bring to this area that would help our convention center. So love for you all to continue to focus in that direction. Mr.
Thank
Bond.
you very much. Yes. It's good to see you and meet you, and just ask you to show your passion as someone who's been traveled the world in some ways. You've seen things. You want to make sure it's welcoming. That's the biggest thing in the world. And I think the only other suggestion I have is to see what we could draft off of. Tomorrow is exciting. You know what's happening tomorrow, Ms. Hahn? That's a tough question there, but I ask you, what's happening tomorrow?
Tell me.
It's the biggest college game of the year
Oh,
in Pasadena.
right.
Okay, I
Well,
got
that.
that. Okay, but
Oh,
how
that.
much did we draft off that? Did we have welcoming signs at the LAX to say, welcome Alabama, welcome Texas.
Texas,
Did
yeah.
we invite the marching bands to City Hall?
Hook 'em horn.
We should have done a lot of those things to draft off these other activities to just celebrate our lives and our surroundings. And the biggest improvement to the convention center has been its neighbor, LA Live, and to try to draft off that. This year, because of budget cuts, we're transforming the St. Patrick's Day Parade to a moving parade, so to speak. We're not closing the streets down, but we're going to end at LA Live to try to celebrate in that kind of public square there and help enhance those businesses. I would say I've been to places in the world that have unique restaurants. Here's their big public building, and then there's an interesting restaurant on the corner. If you could see on the western side of the convention center above 11th Street there, to use that airspace for something, to draft off all the excitement that takes place there and look at it. So welcome to the city family, and I think it's real important to just use your life experience to say, how can you make it easier for people to enjoy a fine event, whatever that event may be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we'll be happy to make the recommendation that you be accepted as a commissioner. Good luck. Again, you have a very interesting, unique background, and just remember that, and just use that to always speak up and bring forth your ideas, because you are here for a reason. So use it, and hopefully we'll be more successful in the future at the convention center.
Thank you.
So you want to move to?
Move.
Okay. Without objection, we'll
Thank you.
move that to the full city council. When is she going to? the
Ms.
city council?
Shabazz will be before the city council on next Tuesday, the 12th.
Okay, good. All right, good.
And
Congratulations.
just a technical question, just in the era of efficiencies, should these commissions looked at to be combined in some way in the future? Is that something to look at here in this 2010 or 2010?
They kind of have different focuses, but,
I know, but how much energy? Something to talk about
Something
with
to
the
talk
CAO.
yes.
Not to displace anybody, but whatever. Okay,
Right,
thank you.
okay. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now if it's
The next item.
next, if it's all right with you, we'll take item 7, and then I'll have to leave.
Under item 7, the Harbor Department's Executive Director submits monthly status reports, numbers 1, 2, and 3, relative to the possible development and operation of a shipyard facility at the former Southwest Marine Shipyard site at the Port of Los Angeles.
Good morning.
Well, good morning. Just to set the stage, this is a matter that is a result of a memorandum of understanding, which was June 29th. I think we finalized that, between the Port of Los Angeles and Gamble Industries regarding the potential reopening of the former Southwest Marine Shipyard facility on Terminal Island. And this was an issue that I got very involved in because I thought it was a great opportunity, and I still do, to bring back a major shipbuilding and repair facility to Los Angeles. I think it, opens the door for great economic potential. Hopefully we're going to hear that that's a possibility this morning. I think it's a great opportunity for focusing on different kinds of jobs in the harbor. I still feel like, the economy in the harbor area is so tied to the port, but it's, been so tied to the jobs that involve cargo, that any dip in cargo obviously completely affects the local economy. I still hear people in San Pedro, small business owners, restaurant owners, who are saying they just know when things are not picking up at the port because their businesses are suffering. So this seemed like an opportunity to really have just a different sector of job creation at the Port of Los Angeles. So there seemed to be two issues that were big, and again, part of the MOU was about just keeping, having the city council be just updated on how it's going, what the status is, how we're moving forward to potentially open the shipyard. Two big issues were always, and can we come to an understanding of the engineering design where we can preserve this shipyard, partially fill these slips, and make sure that there is room for you to deposit the sediment from the channel deepening project. And the other seemed to be, is there really a market for a shipyard? Is this something we do want to invest in? Is this something that's viable for us in 2010? So maybe Dr. Netz, you could just give us an update of how it's going. I know you guys have been meeting. I know there have been engineering reports. I know there's been exchange of information. So maybe just give us a update of how it's going. What do you think? And there's also that February 1st date. So give us an update of how these negotiations are going.
Okay, and I guess you would have received the 3 monthly reports, and I'm not going to go through those monthly reports, but they do show a lot of collaboration between the Gamble folks and port staff. And there's been issues identified in those reports, and like their difficulty in finding consultants, and I think they've been resolved along the way. One of the constant threads in the report is the pressure of time.
Right.
And I think probably Gamble would agree we're not on the schedule that they had originally prepared in terms of where we'd like to be. But we've just reached a significant milestone in the fact that, on December 22nd, we got the engineering technical report from them. And I think a day or two before that, we also got a piece of what's going to become part of the ultimate business plan, which is the marketing study. Councilwoman, I know how important this is to you. We now have these documents. We believe it's going to take us about 3 weeks to review them, and we're going to respond back in writing. We know that February 1st deadline is looming. And of course, we all know that we don't want to delay the dredging project or do anything to impact that project. But I do believe we can look at ways to not impact the overall dredging schedule and the dredging project, but also allow the time to finish this process and continue the collaboration with Gamble. At this point, until we really finish our review of these reports, I don't think we're prepared to get into and describe, have we found the solution, what have you. There's been a lot of good work done, and I think that might be, the subject of the next report once we get this review out. But I do want you to know that we're committed to continue the collaboration, despite the February 1st deadline and work through this process.
Okay, well, obviously that's good to hear because it's clearly when we started, it seemed like everybody was sort of far apart in terms of what we thought could be accomplished. But I'm really happy to hear that there's, and I hear it from both sides that meetings are happening. But again, it is some technical engineering stuff that it's going to amount to whether or not it's going to work for everybody. So now the February 1st date seemed to be a go or no go in terms of the port. Is there a softening of that date?
Well,
for
no.
you?
What the February 1st date, in the MOU, it says we can't start construction of the dike prior to February 1st. Let me just say we're not prepared to start construction of the dike on February 2nd.
Okay.
So I believe we have the time to continue to collaborate and work through these issues.
Okay. Now, the MOU also talked about the shipyard proposal going to the Harbor Commission at some point. Is that something you want to wait on until you look at this information, or what's your sense of your timing on that?
Yeah, I think what we're going to do with the documents we already have is we're going to review them, we're going to respond, and we're going to do that in writing. I think the reference in the MOU to the report to the Harbor Commission references are bringing in the business plan and all of the stuff and going to the board for an ultimate action item at some point. And I would view that, as some months down the road. So that's not going to be happening anytime soon.
All right. I'm going to have, I know Gamble is here, and I was going to have them come up as well and just talk in terms of their opinion, their engineering report, what they think. My wish, and we're joined by Councilmember Bill Rosendahl. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everybody.
My wish, and I don't want to, however you want to handle it, but I would rather see your folks meeting with them after you review their engineering material as opposed to just sending them, a written report. I just feel like, I got eggs. I just feel like that might help the process move forward a little bit better and a little more, collaboration-wise instead of just doing a written report.
Yeah. And I didn't, if I inferred that, we were not going to be meeting, we were just shipping something off to them. I didn't mean it to sound that way, but we have yet to, at some point the port has to come out and say, this is going to work, this isn't going to work, if we modify it this way, this will work, whatever.
I think part of my role too is just trying to sort of be this, mediator,
Right.
and I just don't feel like we need to have mediation at this point, but I think you do better when you, are in the same room and you're sharing information and sharing ideas. I think it might move the project along a little bit better. And I think, again, I've seen you, Dr. Nats, in all these years. You solve pretty amazing problems. You have had the most incredible challenges at the port, some seemingly impossible things that I think when we look back, we can't imagine that we accomplished it. And I really, credit you for you've got engineering skills, you're a scientist, you're a very smart person, and I think this is a challenge that I really have confidence in you to kind of figure out how, if we can, how we can make this happen. And I think you could look back on this one day and think, that we have a shipyard that came back to Los Angeles, which I think would be huge. So, but I'm very pleased with everything you said and how we're moving forward. Mike, did you want to say anything? Okay. Well, if you want to stay here, or in case we have some more questions.
One quick thing, Dr. Nats, have somebody look at the files when they close. Was there any closing report that may shine light on to why they made the decision, 20 years ago? But if they look at some of the history, I always like to see why they did it. And is anybody building shipyards in the country?
I'm not really aware of anything.
Yeah.
I think that would be part of the
whole thing.
analysis
Good.
that
Okay.
gets done in the market. Look at the competition.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, in terms of the two issues you raised, Councilwoman, there's the engineering one.
Right.
And, you can find a solution to that. I believe
Right.
there's an answer to that.
See,
The
I do
second
too.
part, is there a market for it? That, I think,
Right.
begs some more look at and study.
Right, which we're going to talk about right now. Did somebody from Gamble want to come up at this point? And also, is Mr. Cosmont here? Oh, his office is here. Okay. Okay. Which one, Bob? Or who wants to talk about? I was going to have Gamble maybe speak to the engineering.
All right, well, we can
Okay.
sit right here.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to.
Sit at the mic.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank.
Listen to Ben Resnick.
Yeah, okay, Ben. Why don't you just talk? Good morning.
Introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Bob Stein, president of Gamble Industry and proponent for the shipyard at the former opening the shipyard at the former Southwest Marine. I have a couple of our team here, members of our team here, would like to speak briefly. The first one would be Will Soholtz with Cosmont.
Okay.
And they're charged with doing the market study and the business plan.
Okay.
And also Tim Basley from Ocean Blue, or Blue Ocean. Who's the engineering lead on the engineering?
Okay, good.
And,
Yeah, 'cause
he'll
we-
speak just briefly,
Yeah, yeah.
just a few minutes.
Just briefly, a couple minutes.
But I want to just take a minute to thank the port for their efforts, and I know it's extreme efforts that they've put forth so far, and it's been a difficult task for them, and frankly, we've had our challenges too. We feel that we've overcome some tremendous hurdles. We've satisfied in our minds the engineering criteria, and the feasibility market study aspect is even better than we've expected. And since we started this project, there have been some significant developments I know Mr. LeBon mentioned, asked questions about why the former Southwest Marine yard closed up, and
Right.
very interesting situation. Southwest Marine was acquired by BAE, gigantic British aerospace corporation. I think they're one of the largest defense suppliers to in the world. Southwest owned a facility in San Diego, one in Los Angeles, and one in San Diego. San Francisco, did I say San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. When the Navy Yard left L.A. area and went to San Diego, it became, they had 2 other yards, and basically they closed up the only opportunity for ship repair facilities in this area. And they really are not major ship repair people. They do mostly Navy work.
Right.
And so that left a big void. And I think we've captured and identified that void. And there's a tremendous amount of jobs that could be brought back to this area. We have on our staff 2 major employees of the former Southwest Marine facilities that used to work there, and for 40 years, one for 40 years, and the other one for 25 years. So we're well on our way to reopen this thing, and we feel that there can be a significant number of jobs, and good jobs, multi-skilled jobs, and we'll be wanting to talk to you later about some training that's going to have to be done, because we need some skilled workers now.
Right.
We need to bring them back. So I could provide you more about why
That's
it
good.
goes,
I just
but
want to make
I
sure
just wanted to
the
give you a brief
department looks at it.
brief
Good.
knowledge of that.
Because that's a great thing, because I forgot about the Navy.
Right. But again, I want to thank Dr. Natz and her staff for the courtesies and the hard work that they've shown and extended to us in the courtesies. But
All right, let's hear briefly, is there a market for a shipyard in the Los Angeles area?
Sure, thank you. And I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak. And as Bob indicated, Cosmont Companies was retained to assist in the preparation of the overall business plan. And one of the critical elements, as Dr. Natz indicated, of that business plan is to evaluate whether or not there is a market for a shipyard within this region. In addition to our independent market analysis, Marine Transportation and Logistics Advisors, an independent consulting firm, was also retained to perform a market analysis. So we basically had, for this project, 2 market analyses prepared and independent analyses prepared. The excellent news is that both market analyses came back and said that there is a substantial market for the size of vessel that this shipyard would be servicing, and that size is up to about 700 feet in length. And the proposed facility would have a type and configuration of dry dock that would utilize 3 dry docks of different lengths that would service vessels up to, again, 700 feet, but could service vessels in different ranges up to those 700 feet in different configurations of those dry docks. So the way that the dry docks are set up, you could have 2 dry docks paired together to service a vessel of 700 feet. If you had smaller vessels, let's say 300 or 400 feet, you could use those dry docks independently. And due to that configuration and the length to beam ratio of these particular dry docks, there is a distinct competitive advantage and market opportunity to locate a shipyard here to service the types of ships that transit the West Coast and also call on the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And the opportunity is substantial. We found both in our analysis, Cosmont's analysis, that looked at the competitive advantage specific to this shipyard, and also in MTLA's analysis that just looked at the total number of ships serving the region that would benefit or take advantage of service opportunities in this location, that either way you looked at it, there is a deep market that could be accommodated here. And we are very excited about this project. We think
Where's
it's
the ships get fixed like that are in Alaska? Where do they get fixed? Let's
Absolutely.
say.
There are shipyards up and down the West Coast. However, there would be shipyards in Alaska. There are some in Seattle. There are some in Portland.
Any in Vancouver?
And Vancouver also has some
Right,
shipyards
okay.
as well. Absolutely.
Any in
And
Mexico?
There are shipyards down south as well. We've looked at all those opportunities. We've also taken into consideration Yeah, and that is absolutely part of the business plan is an evaluation of the competitive offerings, absolutely. What's unique about this facility, as I briefly talked about, is the length to beam ratio, and it's a technical perhaps discussion, but length to beam ratio of the proposed dry docks. And what it means is that there's an economic advantage to utilizing the proposed dry docks here. For instance, a ship that is 400 feet in length may have an abnormally wide beam, and this is more and more frequent. And in a typical dry dock scenario, based on the existing dry docks that are in service and available to service those markets, so let's say a 400-foot vessel with an abnormally wide beam, they may have to transit to a location, say in Alaska or in Seattle or Vancouver, to utilize an 800-foot dry dock that can accommodate that beam even though the ship is only 400 feet in length.
Oh.
And so that ties up that dry dock, that 800-foot dry dock,
I see.
does two things. The operator of that dry dock does not want to tie up the dry dock for only a 400-foot vessel unless there is economic incentive to do
Right.
that, which then costs the operator greater amounts of money in addition to the transit time. So the proposed configuration of this dry dock, as well as the location, the ability to roll on and roll off, and the other inherent competitive advantages of this location make this a very interesting opportunity and an
Right.
opportunity to reuse the site.
What about the market for building ships or luxury yachts? Or
Sure.
I understand that this is also a facility that could accommodate that type of industry. Is there a market? Are people building ships and yachts and
Sure, yeah. The market fluctuates, certainly.
are the rich getting richer?
Always there.
Yeah, that's
Certainly,
right.
the demand for yacht building has declined in recent years, but it is expected to go back up over time. The demand for shipbuilding in general fluctuates and is cyclical. Fortunately, the repair opportunity is countercyclical, much like the import-export business. This was an opportunity to hedge internally within a shipyard. If you've got more new construction, frequently there is less repair because new ships are being built.
Right.
Ships typically operate within about a 25 to 30-year life cycle, and so do have to be replaced. There is some requirements that ships be built in the U.S. if they're to be operated in the U.S., and we do see that there is some opportunity for new ship construction. Gamble certainly already has existing experience in building yachts that would certainly be of interest in the future as well. It is not one of the primary, it is not a requirement to support this facility, though. It would be much like icing on the cake to be able to enter into that market. Shipbuilding there's certainly a market for it. It's something that would be entered into slowly. Over time, the facility could pursue Navy certification and also could, through that, serve refitting of Navy vessels and other
Right.
new
Right.
vessels as well.
Okay. All right. So according to your studies, you feel like, no doubt about it, there is a market.
There is a market,
at this
absolutely.
time for this facility.
That's correct. I just want to clarify that there is a demand for new shipbuilding, but that is something that would have to be stepped
Right.
into over time and is not
All
required
right, I'm
to
going
support
to
the facility.
I'm going to focus on the engineering now, and then you guys, if you want to ask some questions. Okay, so from the engineering aspect, that was one of the big issues, was whether or not, we could partially fill these slips with a different configuration and still keep them, available for this type of industry.
Thank you. It's Tim Basley with Blue Water Design Group.
We're not engineers here either, so, speak to us in
Yeah.
common language.
And I'll be brief. The idea is
I want you to hear this.
the idea was certainly a challenge because of some of the site conditions and the geometries that are required to meet the needs of the shipyard. So we had to go through some very serious alternatives analysis to be able to find an alternative that would, number one, meet the geometries that we needed, number two, meet the structural requirements because of the heights of the wall, and then be able to be something that was affordable and constructible. And during the course of the alternatives evaluations, we were able to come up with what we think is the best alternative, which happens to be a proprietary or a patented system that is actually being used in other ports in Alaska and throughout the Pacific Northwest especially. And that we identified that late in September as being the preferred system that would serve the purposes the best. And then also at the same time, we went through and we tried to really understand what the existing site conditions are so that we knew what we had going into it, and we would come up with an alternative that could keep moving forward, and one that wouldn't have to go back and go through any redesigns or anything like that if the existing conditions were to change. So we actually went through and vetted the assumptions that we were making when we started through the alternatives analysis to make sure that the alternatives and the geometries that we were using fit the needs. So we were able to identify.
Oh, in other words.
It works. We have a system that works.
Okay.
And we've done the preliminary analysis, and that's the summation is in the reports that were issued that document the initial analyses that support these findings.
Okay. All right.
And that's a book about this thick.
Right. So, and which you turned over December 17th or something to the board.
The final draft
okay.
in 22nd.
Okay. So that's obviously, again, two big issues, colleagues, were can we structurally move forward with dredging the main channel, disposing of the sediment in a way that will still keep these slips operational, and is there a market for building a shipyard in the Port of Los Angeles at this time? So that's really kind of what we wanted to hear. We didn't really have this information, when we started this process. So this is good information. But what we need now to happen, of course, is for the port staff to obviously look at it, review it. Hopefully you guys can meet. I'm hoping you'll meet sooner than later to discuss all this information. Do you all have some?
We have one quick question,
What?
timetable. It's January 6th, year 2010. When will we see something happening there? What's the time frame of getting this off the ground?
I thought you told me January 20th.
Well, February 1st is the date, right? We're working with?
Well, no, February 1st is the date in
Miss
the
Nancy.
MOU that
The port,
start
yeah,
right until after.
yeah.
Got it, all right.
Right. The port has a project. It's called the Channel Deepening Project, and they have a timetable. They have a schedule. Nobody wants to delay that.
Right on.
So it was a February 1st date for them.
So what's your sensing of getting this off the ground, cutting ribbons, and everybody happy?
Admittedly, there's a lot more work to be done. And we have come a long way on the business plan. The port is not aware of what we've have in place yet, but they will shortly. And we have more meetings to have hold with the port and collaborate with them on some of these specific aspects of the business plan. And we also have a sequence discussions that need to take place.
I understand all that. I'm just
we're
curious.
working.
What time frame ramping up? When will we?
Well,
really have
we're not
jobs?
certain when the port is going to be ready to start the project, and it's really in their hands. But I would hope sometime in 2011 that we could be cutting ribbons here.
Very good.
Great.
So we have. I think the jobs are so exciting, and these are really good jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And we're.
Do you have any sense how many jobs you might be talking about?
I think when this thing is fully built out on the repair service side of it, not including construction, because it ramps up quite a bit, close to 500 jobs. So,
Yeah.
So,
Good. Mr. Lalonde?
No, I'm interested. Let's move forward.
Great. What I would suggest is that we have everybody come back on February 3rd, which is our regularly scheduled TCT meeting for an update on both these issues. And hopefully between now and then, we'll have lots of good interaction and meetings. We want this to work. I think you've heard from City Hall that we think this is an important project, and we want to see it happen. We also know that the channel deepening is another very important project, and that also means lots of good jobs. So we want this to be a win-win on both of those issues. So February 3rd, we'll come back and see where we are. Hopefully both sides can come together. Okay, thank you, everybody, for your hard work on this. I think it's a vision worth keeping. It's a project worth building. So let's all hang in there. And good for the state of California.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to.
You're the vice chair.
You're the vice chair?
Yeah.
Okay, then
Airport stuff.
you can run the meeting.
You leaving me?
I got to go to a funeral. Oh, not my own. Okay.
See
Okay.
Look, I'm going to go to yours in about 35 years.
How weird. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, carry on.
Okay. Well, folks, let's go through the rest of the agenda. What's the next item?
Item 2.
Item 2.
The Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the Second Amendment to contract with Coach America Los Angeles, which is for the operation of the Flyaway bus service between Van Nuys Airport and LAX. The Second Amendment would extend the term from 5 years for an additional year on a month-to-month basis, not to exceed the 12 months, and would increase the maximum compensation by an amount not to exceed $5.6 million. The CAO has submitted a report recommending approval of this contract amendment.
Very good. Morning.
Good morning. Kim
Who wants to give
Ellis,
us an
Manager
update?
of Landside
Yeah.
Operations at LAX.
How are we doing?
Any questions you may have, I'm
Well,
here to answer.
let's just start with as part of the settlement agreement, there was this notion of flyways. The whole idea of it is to take congestion off of the freeways and get it into the airport.
Yes.
Give us an update status on the entire flyaway program.
The best news we've got for the Flyaway program as a whole is the start of the Irvine service about 2 months ago, and it's interesting to note that only 2 months the system is recovering almost 52% of the costs already.
Great.
And that's with I believe, a $25 one-way fare. I don't have the specifics on the ridership numbers. We're running about...
Could you get that back to us?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can. There's actually a presentation being made to the Board of Commissioners on Monday.
Good.
We can get
We'd
that
like
to
a
you.
report on that, too.
Yes, sir. We can do that.
And Van Nuys, and how many do we have? We have one in Orange County now, too?
We have the Van Nuys, we have the Westwood, Union Station, and now the Irvine.
Okay, and do you feel comfortable about those other three?
Yes, yes. We're adjusting the fares. We've adjusted the schedules to try and reduce the costs, bring the revenue up. They're not all paying for themselves yet, but we're gradually getting to that point.
Okay, anecdotally, and I told Gina Marie this yesterday, and I'd like you to do this, is I want you to survey your workers at the airport. Anecdotally, people have come to me and said, you know, it would be great if there was a flyaway from Ontario to LAX. I'm not saying passengers in my mind when I'm saying this. I'm saying staff that work at the airport. If there is a significant number of staff at our LAX in combination of various parts of who works at LAX that could go to Ontario as a short moment from their homes, get on a bus and come to LAX. If we saw there was a market for it with our employees, I would love to explore that possibility, not on a regular basis. Maybe there's a couple of 3 a day at a certain time frame that would take people there, a couple of 3 a day that would take them away. Just like I know many of them, workers, when the bus goes around the airport to pick up people to flyways, by the time it gets to where they may be, they can't get on it, and they want to get on it to get to where they want to go. So I think there might be a demand for that service to go from Ontario to LAX. Of course, Dream Sheet long-term, when we get the modernization going at LAX, pass the costs on to the airlines, it's no longer the cheapest place to take off and land, they'll start doing it nonstop, direct, frequent, and discounted flights out of Ontario. As we know, Ontario is going down right now. A day will come when it will go back up because we on the ground don't like airlines telling us we don't care how long it takes for you to get to the gate. We really do care.
Yes.
It's fine for me, LAX, but it ain't fine for people in the Inland Empire to go to LAX.
We can do that.
But look into that aspect.
We can do that.
Can I add to that question, please, Mr. Rosendahl? Mike Molina, External Affairs. It's a great question, and it's important to know that we have a pretty ambitious van pool program for our employees. We have 63 daily van pools from throughout the basin that comes to LAX, and out of the 63, 10 generate from the Inland Empire area, Ontario, and the communities around it.
They got it.
So we have a pretty ambitious program to bring them.
I mean, that's very good.
I'll send you the chart.
Yeah, because I can tell you the people who've been coming up to me haven't told me that there was this van service, which obviously is.
We'll be happy to send you the
But
chart.
the van service has been run along 20 years. I mean, it's almost like we got to remind ourselves that it's there. And the other thing, too, how much you punched into the Metrolink, which runs almost every hour to San Bernardino. How far is it from the eastern lines of the Metrolink to Ontario? How many 100 feet. It's on the wrong side of the airport, right?
The San Bernardino line runs to the north, and the Riverside line runs to the south, but they're both pretty close.
Within a half a mile of each other. So there's service there.
Now, I got two questions for you, substantive ones. I've received complaints, and this has been going on for a few years now, about Flyaway buses parked with their engines idling in downtown Westchester or cutting through the streets in Westchester instead of taking the highway. We've mentioned this before with previous contract renewals have come up. Has anything been done to address this issue in Westchester?
I personally have not heard that complaint. We'll certainly look into that.
Would you look into that?
Yes,
and
sir.
get back to Chad Muller from my staff here and fill him in on that. And the second question is, what is the status of upgrading the Flyaway buses to the newer, more environmentally friendly models?
They're all required to be CNG now. We are working with 60, I'm sorry, I'm confusing the shuttles, not the airport. We are upgrading those to the CNG models.
Okay. Also to Chad.
The newer routes, the Van Nuys route still, I think, is still diesel, clean diesel, because of the passenger capacity and the luggage capacity needs for those buses, and I don't believe the CNG buses are available in that capacity. But on the Irvine and the Westwood routes, we're running the CNG buses.
Very cool. Very cool. Ms. LeBlanc?
You were going to get a report, Chad?
Yeah,
you
well,
get the report?
committee,
yeah, but I want a copy to the councilman. So just there, make sure CC to the councilman.
Yeah,
so he
so
sees
it's all three of
Next thing, I ask you a question. So you're coming down the Flyway from Van Nuys. You're on the 405. It's bumper to bumper. Is it proper for you and legal for you to get off at Jefferson or whatever and come down Sepulveda to the airport? I'm okay with it. Now, I know Mr. Rosendahl may not be okay with it, but Sepulveda...
in community.
Yeah, all right, so what I'm just saying, because I know some people in my district, they get mad that buses go up to the observatory. I'm okay for it. If you live next to a public park, what do you got to expect? What do you got to expect if you live next to a public park?
I'm not sure. I don't.
The public, okay? All right, now, if you live next to a public highway, and Sepulveda is a public highway, there may be some. But to idle, like Mr. Rosendahl stated, is unnecessary. And people do get mad. I know a guy I hike with, he gets mad when the guys jump out of their city trucks and they keep their cars on, their trucks on. And I'm saying, if you jump out of your truck 50 times a day, it's the habit you get into it. Well, how much gas would you save, Councilman? He says to me, and I say, I'll investigate it. I haven't investigated it yet, but I'm looking at it. But it's on the record right now, right, Sharon?
Yes,
Yeah.
council member.
Okay, good. And how many people go fly away?
He doesn't have the
What
number,
numbers?
but we want that.
We can get the total numbers.
Well, here's the thing I was going to say. I was not, although I'm a fan of all things. Pink's Hot Dogs is my favorite there at La Brea and Melrose. Okay, but when McDonald's used to say over 2 billion served, when you're going down the 405, maybe you could say since this is in Tom Bradley's time they started the flyaway, right?
Yes.
Since 1991, over 7 million people have got to the airport on ease or something. Have a little big bumper sticker on the side of your bus, a public service, something to tell people, remind people. Mr. Rosendahl, we don't do enough of. Mr. Molina, who spoke earlier, 60 buses, 60 van pools. 60 van pools is a tremendous commitment by the department. And UCLA has a van pool program, water and power, all those things are real important. The challenge will be in the future is because a van pool is more of a gourmet menu item than a city bus or something like this, is when our dollars shrink and we have to say, we're going to combine van pool with something else, you get that problem. Anyway, tell people what you're doing.
We can do that.
And, go from there. Thank you.
I do have the Van Nuys numbers. In 2008, we had serviced 72,000 in November. And then in November 2009, the ridership went down a little bit to 65,000, but that was just a reflection overall of the people not traveling as much as they were.
But that's close to $1 million a year if you average it out.
Just on Van Nuys.
Right.
Very good. Great.
Okay, good.
So moved. What action do we need to do?
Approve the contract.
So done.
Okay. This item is in council today.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Try to keep it on consent, but we'll see what happens down there.
Item 3.
Yeah.
Under item 3, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for approval second amendments to the on-airport automobile concession agreements with 10 rent-a-car companies at LAX. The amendments would extend the contract terms by 3 years, expiring January 31, 2015, and would add various other provisions. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of the second amendment to the 10 concession agreements.
Very good. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And good morning, Debbie Bowers with Commercial Development Group at Lala.
We're going to do some golfing one of these days, Debbie?
Very soon.
February, huh?
You golf?
No.
What do you do, throw it to the ball?
No. I'm going to let my brother be part of the foursome.
Oh, good, okay.
That's as close as I'll get to the golf course.
Okay,
but
good.
They're really excited. 18 holes, my God. Thanks for doing
looks
it.
beautiful.
You did a great job. I'll never forget that one day I'm sitting in a room. I said, who's in charge of this at the airport? We got to get this moving. Because it's been like 10 years or 20 years or something like that. And bingo, you were the star that produced it. Okay.
Thank you.
Tell us what we're doing here.
This is just extending the current concessions agreements with 10 of the racks, the rental car. And basically the reason that we want to extend it instead of going out for a proposal is because they are working with us on the design and location of the Conrack. And it will also allow us to continue to collect the CFCs.
Very good. Now tell me about the Conrack. Where are we heading on that?
Well, it's under study, but I'm
Yeah.
going to let Mike speak to that because it ties in with the spas and all that.
Very good.
As we know, that the consolidated rental car facility is a green-lighted project in the master plan, currently projected to be located on Lot B. There's a lot of discussion, though, that there may be better sites for the consolidated rental car facility, and that would be an issue that would be explored once we begin the specific plan amendment study that will be later this year following the results of the NORSAC plan, or the NORSAC study.
Very cool.
So we will look at alternative sites.
Yeah, the alternative sites, the rumors on the street, can you share them with us? Like, Manchester Square, is that true?
That's true.
It's true because there seems to be a lot of good reasons to consider Manchester Square.
Because it's closer to the 405 and the
It's one of the best reasons, right there, right,
Okay.
proximity to the freeway.
When will we have a timetable of knowing how we're going to move on the consolidated?
Councilmember, we're looking at the NORSAC study to be completed in its preliminary form in February, final form in April. Those recommendations would then be part of the specific plan amendment study that could be kickstarted again about the middle of this year, and the study would then continue throughout the end of the year. So this is.
Are there controversial aspects to that other than, is there anything about the consolidated rental that's controversial?
There's nothing controversial about the consolidated rental, and that's why it's a green-lighted project. However, if we want to consider moving a green-lighted project to a location that currently has a yellow-lighted project designated, namely the Ground Transportation Center at Manchester Square, Shabazz has to look at that first. The specific plan amendment study has to look at that first. So there's a little bit of a process that is required before we can officially or publicly designate Manchester Square as a location for the consolidated rental car facility.
Let's go through that process, and by the time we're in September, where will we be?
We'll be a lot farther along the way.
Okay, and so do you think we'll be able then to say in 2011 we're going to build a consolidated rental facility? Are we looking at those timetables or not? What's our sensing?
Not to construct, because we'll have to start, once we decide that is the location, the whole CEQA process.
Right.
Yeah, so it probably would be 2013 at the earliest that you would see any construction going on.
But I'd say there are a lot of good things happening in the meantime, council member. We're working closely with the rental car facilities, with rental car companies, which is something that Debbie has led, so that there really is a collaborative effort among the rental car companies. We are looking at amending the state legislation in the customer facility charge this year in Sacramento, so that we are able to find ways to assemble the financing, because this is about an $800 million project, constructing this rental car facility. So we are doing our homework in anticipation of what happens. We want the specific plan amendment study to proceed. We stopped it because of the NORSAC study, because that was a very, very important thing to do, to look at the safety issues of the North Airfield. And then once we have those recommendations in the next couple months, then we're able to begin again.
One thing I want to make clear is I don't want to tie the North Runway or any of these other kinds of issues into the consolidated rental. Consolidated rental is a green-lighted project. Now, it's true it might be yellow for that particular location.
Site,
but
correct.
let's get beyond it. And Debbie, I don't want to go 2013. I want to get this thing done in 2012. We got all of 2010 and all of 2011 to do all the bureaucratic and all the gameplay and community outreach and everything else we need to do. So this year and next year is all I want to give you, and I'd like you to come back and tell me, yes, we can do it, starting January 1 of 2012. 13 is just too much.
Well, as a matter of fact, we have a meeting this month with the RACs to discuss the schedule.
Okay.
So that'll help.
Could you give a report back here when it's appropriate and tighten up that schedule? And anything I can do, or our city can do, Ms. Hahn or Ms. Lebanger and I, to expedite this, since it is a no-brainer and not controversial. And frankly, I'd like to see Manchester Square start getting its act together, because my community complains about Manchester Square sitting there. I'd like to see it be a productive location, and this is a great location.
I think a report back would be appropriate in about 3 months, Councilman, if that's all right.
Okay. So we'll get a report back in 3 months on the consolidated rental facility, timetable, and so on.
Yes, but council member, for this contract, approve? Okay.
Yes. If Mr. Lebanger agrees with me.
Yeah, I do. Let me ask a question. What's the long-range name of Manchester Square? Is there a concept there? Because I know it's a thorn in the side of many people, you know. What's the plan for Manchester Square long-range plan?
Well,
Is that on a holding pattern?
Well, it's on a holding pattern, subject to some of the work that we're doing with the Shabazz and specific plan. If we do a CONRAC, we've been looking at it where it would include the CONRAC and some commercial on it.
No, what's CONRAC?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the consolidated rental car facility. Sorry.
Thank you very much. And I saw that the mayor appointed a deputy mayor to the Green Line extension. Did you see that in the paper, Mr. Rosendahl?
Yes, I did.
Okay, now what's that mean to the LAX? What are we going to do? How fast? I'm ready. I saw the movies. Mike, I don't want to ask you how old you are, but we're probably at the same time. We saw the same cartoons as kids. They built the railroad just like in minutes, you know, across the cartoon screen. How fast could we get the Green Line into the airport so Mr. Rosendahl, who's been a champion for that, could stand there along with other dignitaries and say, finally. What's our plan on that?
Well, I think MTA is looking at dates right now for the movement of both the Crenshaw and the Green Line. We're working closely, and that's exactly what Mr. Alvarez will be doing, is facilitating an effective and active
So right now we know the line goes to aviation, right?
Correct.
That's we're going to try to move it, because is the aviation line going to still be a freight line south of the airport? The aviation line is a freight line now, right?
The
aviation
railroad tracks, yes.
Or should I say Carolina Pines line? You know, whatever is right there at was that aviation?
That's aviation east of the airport.
Yeah.
Those are the tracks that are being looked at for the extension of the Crenshaw and the Green.
Right. Right. Are those active tracks?
They are. I don't know if they're active tracks or not. I
think you should know that. You being an airport man, you know, don't be afraid of the railroad.
I'll
find out and see they're active tracks. But that's how it would come to the north,
correct?
Right? And then it determine how's it get into the airport.
That is the process that we're looking at right now through our STV study by council.
The only thing that just should let them know, the only thing I would support is the same thing they have in Heathrow, where you get into Heathrow and you walk down and you go down like something like that, and you go down like that, then you end up at Paddington Station in 15 minutes.
I've been on that train.
Okay, I don't know why we're not just staying to do that.
Totally right.
You know.
So we move forward on this motion. Thank you very much. Item next.
Under item 4, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for approval the First Amendment to a lease with Avis Renicar system for a car rental facility at 9217 and 9419 Airport Boulevard at LAX. The First Amendment would extend the lease term by 10 years, expiring on January 31, 2020, and would provide for rental rate changes approved by the board. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval.
This is simply just an extension of their current lease. We do have in there, if we do the consolidated rental car facility, a termination clause.
Very good, very good. Did you have a motion on this, Mr. Vaughn?
I do have a motion, but I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Last time airport officials here, we wanted a AGM of transportation. Is that being developed? You know, who's the person who's Mr., Ms., Miss, or whatever the transits are for LAX. Remember that committee we asked?
Yeah.
Who's the big cheese?
Yep.
And so, are we developing a person like that?
We're developing a person like that. In fact, at this
I mean, not an existing person, because there's no money to expand, but it's to take someone of your team and say, you are it. And Miss Gina Marie Lindsay said that's a good idea, and she's going to look at that. So you're looking at it?
We're looking at it. In fact, we have given much of that responsibility to Mr. Alvarez, who is now.
But is he working for the airport or working for the mayor?
He's working for the airport.
The airport's paying a salary?
Correct.
So he's not a deputy mayor anymore?
No, he's a LAWA employee working on.
So is he going to be that person?
He is taking on that role, yes.
So we should have that known, because.
We'll be happy to bring Diego before the committee.
But absolutely, they should have their track shoes on and be knowledgeable. But really, beyond that, because I want to make sure, and this is of concern to me, Mr. Rosendahl, that each one of the AGMs knows that, like, the lifeblood of what's going to take place the next year is how you're getting people in and out of that airport. You know, so I don't want it to be siloed to just what, in essence, is a political appointee. So
it won't be that, sir. He is living and breathing this issue and is spending his full-time work looking at, most especially, MTA, high-speed rail, Caltrans issues in bringing regional public transportation to our airports.
What are our? We should get some time frames, because you know what the great thing about the new year, you could say these are some goals, and even though you may haven't got them down by the 1st of January, there's a grace period to like the 24th of January. If you don't have your goals for the new year by the 24th, they don't count.
Let's
Remember,
start it off.
yeah, okay.
I've already broken my plans
Got it.
already
Good.
about losing weight. But I would like Diego to when he settles in to obviously come to this committee and give us a sensibilities of what his job is, what he's going to do, and how he's going to operate. We obviously like the idea of somebody taking responsibility for getting that green line accomplished. We have the MOU, we have the MTA, we have LAWA, we have all these good things going. So if he's going to be playing a role in that, we obviously look forward to that discussion and that involvement. So
we'll schedule
once
that.
he settles in, we look forward to that kind
Great.
of discussion.
Great.
So we have a motion and a second, so we've moved that item forward. Next item.
Item 5, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits a replacement lease with Raytheon Company for the use of hangar and office space at 16101 Satakoy Street at Van Nuys Airport. This would be for a term beginning on the first day of the month following lease execution, expiring on March 31, 2010, with 2 one-year options for renewal. The CAO also has submitted a report recommending approval of the proposed replacement lease.
You want to give us a quick highlight of it? Anything we need to know?
Thumbnail sketch.
Thumbnail sketch.
The reason that it expires on 2010 to start off with is that we've been negotiating this lease for some time.
Yep.
But corporate Raytheon was holding it until they determined whether they were going to stay at Van Nuys Airport. And then they only wanted a short time period on the lease itself.
Very good. Okay. Do we have a motion, colleague?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
See you in
And-
council?
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
Item 6, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for council approval the third amendment to the agreement with outside counsel Mayor Brown, LLP, for legal representation in the ongoing case of Stanley Mosler versus the city, etc. The proposed contract amendment would replace Meyer Brown with Shepard, Kim, and Overland in order to retain the same outside counsel who has assisted the Harbor Department and the city attorney since the beginning of this case. CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval.
Good morning,
Morning.
council members. Chris Bobo, Assistant City Attorney for the City Attorney's Office, Harbor Division. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
You want to give us a thumbnail?
Thumbnail sketch is this case in federal court has been pending since March 2002. All defendants were granted summary judgment some time ago. The appellant has appealed the case to the Ninth Circuit. We are briefing that appeal. The attorney who has been handling the case for the city, outside counsel Mark Harris, previously of Beck DeCorso. That firm dissolved. He went to Mayor Brown. He's very familiar with that case. He has changed firms yet again. Because of his familiarity, knowledge, and skill with the case and the great results he has achieved thus far, we'd like to continue to have him represent the city in the Ninth Circuit appeal. And this amendment will
It's a
allow
full
that.
employment act for lawyers. It's 8 years ongoing now. How much money has been spent on this thing, and when will it ever end?
This case could end literally any minute now. The plaintiff, Stanley Mosler, filed a motion to remand the case on certain limited issues. We think that motion lacks merit. We've asked the court to throw it out, and also, since he didn't file his appellate brief as ordered by the court, to dismiss his appeal. If the Ninth Circuit rules on that pending matter, the case could end instantly.
A lot of resources in this, right?
A lot of resources. It has been going on since 2002. There was a federal investigation, federal subpoena. There were numerous prior court motions. The city has spent approximately $3 million defending the action.
Golly. Well, thank you for that update. Mr. Labange, any questions?
I think I'm okay, Counselor. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that report. Do we need to take action on that?
Yes, Councilmember, you need to approve it.
This is a contract amendment.
So done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else? No public comment. We now adjourn this.
Wish everybody a safe and happy New Year.
Safe and happy New Year, as Mr. Labange says.